I'm just going to start with some opening remarks, and then we're going to get into an activity, which will be pretty lively, I think. And then there'll be a really unlively activity where the state makes us give you a sort of test. Well, you're probably familiar with the states giving tests that are annoying. So this is a test kind of for the state. Just do your best. We don't care very much how you do it. So the I in ITEAM stands for integrated. And that means an integration between science, math, engineering, technology. And back in the old days, as in 1700s, all these fields were mixed together. People didn't really think of themselves as separately, oh, I don't do math, I'm a physics person. It's all mixed up. Math and science, and even philosophy was mixed in there, and mysticism. So that's because you just had smart people trying to figure out things in the world, how things work, how to control it, and just trying to be precise about it. And so as time went on, we've kind of specialized it into different subjects. But I think everyone who teaches math knows that math can be much more lively if there's a setting to mathematics, a real-world setting. And science has so many great real-world settings. And in fact, a lot of mathematics is created in order to analyze the real-world settings of science. And then in science, whenever you're studying science, there are often really juicy, interesting mathematical ideas you can get at the same past. So the big picture of this grant is for us all to explore ways that we can try to teach more of these subjects together. Okay? So we have a lot of different people here from all different grade levels. There's 3 to 8, and people specializing in different subjects and with very different strengths. And so one way we decided to approach this big differentiation challenge is to make a kind of common ground, which is probably kind of new to everybody, which is design and engineering. And part of the idea of that is that, as you know, the next generation science standards are lurking over the horizon. There's a kind of legislative process it's going through, but it'll land in the next couple of years. And one of the big themes of the next generation science standards, I think that's next generation is about it, is trying to break down these silos between the different sciences and noticing that there are different themes that go through the sciences. So, and one of the big things that they're pushing now is design and engineering. Okay. And I don't know if that sounds scary to you. To me, it actually did. But if you actually look at what they mean by design and engineering, it's actually very interesting. And we'll talk about that today. So the main themes of the whole project are going to be around design and engineering, but we're going to be trying to get at math and science along the way throughout. Okay? So today we're going to focus mainly on design and getting to know each other. And then tomorrow we're going to talk about modeling. And then you're going to have a nice long break away from us. Time will pass. And then you'll go to the Exploratorium in August. And then they're really going to get into building structures and putting together some of these ideas of design and modeling applied to actual bridges and things like that. So it'll be pretty fun down there. So that's the overview. I want to say something about group norms. So I think the big picture is that we are a lot of different people who have different strengths, and we want to make this a safe place for everyone to be able to grow. Everyone has a different place they can grow to, and so in order to do that, it has to be a safe place. And so we all need to pitch in to make it a place that people can try things out and be wrong and try other things out and still be wrong and still be creative. Give people that space to be creative. And to be honest, if there's an activity and you just ace it and just solve the problem right away, then we did something wrong. That's not a design. You're supposed to have to work on it a little bit and struggle, because your brain muscle is not going to get any stronger unless there's some resistance, right? So it's got to be a safe place. We have to make it a safe place for everybody to grow. And part of that means that, so if you disagree with someone, that's fine, but just disagree with their ideas, right? No personal attacks.
I won't linger on these because I think as teachers you probably actually are trying to do these things in your own classroom and have succeeded in your own classrooms. Equity of voice, so that means try to give everyone a space so everyone can be heard, even if they aren't the first people to volunteer. And then also presence. That means, I guess in the old days that meant participating with your full heart. And in the new days it means there's so many distractions like laptops and cell phones that it's very easy to get distracted. So we're going to trust you. We're not going to do anything to stop you from checking your email, but we only have so many hours together. So please be present in the activities and try with your full heart. Okay, is that fair?
Sure.
All right. So, Julie, anything you want to add?
I think you did a wonderful job.
Thank you. I need the validation. Oh, wow, you're validated. I'm fully validated. Okay, so how are you ready to roll with the challenge?
Almost. We're getting some tape.
Get some tape. Well, I'm going to tell you what. You're going to need some. Let me warn you. We're going to ask you to build something right now. And I believe you're going to need some space on the table. So I suggest you put stuff under the table. You don't have to do it. It's free country.
20 pieces of spaghetti. 1 yard
Maybe
of kite
you should
string.
move over here and get
1 yard of masking tape. And 1 marshmallow.
move the tripod. I could also ask them if I can move up on the stage when they're doing this, so I can get like a higher view of
This is what you
everyone.
have to work with.
On
So,
the tables.
what do
Yeah,
you
but
do
for right now
with
you
these
should try to get
items?
her. Yeah.
Don't touch anything yet. Don't do anything until we tell you go, because we're going to be seriously rock solid about this 18 minutes. Okay? The challenge is to build the tallest tower that you can build with 20 pieces of spaghetti, 1 yard of string, 1 yard of masking tape, and the marshmallow must be at the tippy top. Okay, let me repeat that. The marshmallow must be the tippy top of your tower. Okay? Oh man, I thought you were eating the marshmallow. I was like, you're done! Don't eat the marshmallow.
Dr. Foster?
Yes.
Does the whole marshmallow have to be on top or can I eat it?
The entirety of the marshmallow intact must be on the top. Okay? Before I say go, are there any clarifying questions? Yes.
Can we grate the spaghetti?
You can do whatever you want with the spaghetti.
Does it need to be freestanding?
Yes. The question was, does it need to be freestanding? Yes. You may not support it with your hands during the measurement. Yes. No. You do not have to use the entirety of any of your materials except the marshmallow. Yes.
Can the marshmallow be impaled with the spaghetti?
Yes. Marshmallow may be coated.
Can we tape things to the table?
Tape things to the table?
Sure.
Dr. Foster, can you hang things from the ceiling?
Sure. You may not hang things from the ceiling. Was there a question for your hand? You may cut the string, yes. Any other questions? Okay, are you ready to climb?
Okay, I'm about to slam this. Ready? Freestanding structure.
18 minutes, go. Awesome. All right, so you're not graded on this, so it's okay to sit down. It's all good. What I'd like to do, we were going to have everyone get up and kind of do a gallery walk, but some of these are so precarious that I'm not sure they would live through the gallery walk. But let's look around the room. And at this point, if you have to reach out and kind of give it some love and support, that's okay. Keep it low in your arms. That's a good technique. Yeah, just hold it high. When you look around the room, absolute height of the tower, which one, from the base of the tower to the top of the tower, who do you think has the best height? The absolute height of the tower itself. Well, we'll get to that. I mean, I think this one was pretty good, but it seems to not be able to stand up on its own. This one here seems pretty solid, pretty standing. This one. Yeah, I think we've got some nice. All right, so the other thing I want you to look at is which marshmallow is the highest? That guy there. Okay, so I think it's pretty clear that that one is the highest as far as the highest marshmallow, but I don't think that's probably the tallest tower. So we can get into, sometimes when we think about which building is taller. Is it this one with the tower, or is it this one with the absolute height? Okay, well, we can get into that kind of a discussion, but this was a really clever take on how to get the highest marshmallow. And at this point now, for insurance purposes, I'm going to ask you to put the table back. And I'm going to give everybody else a discussion question that I would like you to, without further construction on your towers, the question that I have for you is, mathematically, from a mathematical standpoint, an engineering standpoint, a structure standpoint, a design standpoint, what worked well, and where were your weaknesses? So talk with your team. All right, so let's talk about some of the things that you found that were weaknesses. Where were the points where your towers collapsed? And I don't know names yet, and probably most of the people in the room don't know names. So when you give an answer, if you could say your name and where you're from and what grade you teach before you give your answer. So we're coming to you.
Casey Hodel, Sun Valley, 5th grade. We went too high without enough frost feel.
Okay, so not enough support to keep it going up. Yeah, they had a very Eiffel-esque tower going. When you think about the Eiffel Tower, you've got those 4 beams that are coming up, but there's all of those beams that connect them all the way up. And, honestly, there's only so much you can do with spaghetti and tape. Hence why the Eiffel Tower is made out of steel. I think in Italy they might have made the pasta. Sorry, I just stopped. You had a comment?
I was just going to see our Chris Coleman Center for whatever you want.
Yes.
Right. But we noticed that our base was not wide enough. It was too narrow. The higher you get, the more that we needed it.
Okay. Yeah, and let's go back to that Eiffel Tower. The base is really wide, and then it comes up towards the top. Imagine that tower if they tried to make it straight up. It might have had some twisting issues. Okay?
I'm Liz from Dixie. I teach 5th grade. I was going to say the same thing as Chris, that we just had we can't really tell that we did anything wrong here. But if we had to pick out one weakness, it would be the spindly base.
Okay.
Because I think that's from which you draw everything like this right here. Much better.
Okay, how about one more?
Kim Goodhouse, 3rd grade, Glenn Elementary School. I think our biggest fault was that we didn't have enough time to plan, and we just started doing, and that was our weakness.
Okay, so that 18-minute time constraint played in, you saw that as a weakness?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, given infinite time, you might have gone on Google, done a quick crash course from MIT in engineering and structure. come back, thought about it, built, yeah, time constraint is tough. What about the marshmallow on the top?
Nate McDonald from White Hill. We underestimated the weight of the marshmallow.
Yeah. So what happened?
And so it ended up tipping way over and destroying our whole.
How many of you waited, built your tower, and after you built what you thought was a sufficient tower, put your marshmallow up on top? Yeah. And how many of you started with the marshmallow and then built it up? Did anybody? Well, yeah, y'all. Yeah. You know, think about it, that you had started with that marshmallow and built a structure, and then built a structure to lift that structure, and then built a structure to lift that structure. Kind of an upside down design. That might have helped you, because you don't think about marshmallows being all that heavy. But in the context of spindly tower, the bulk of the mass was at the top of your tower, and that made it odd. Yeah. All right, so what do you find that works? Yeah.
Robert Atkins, fourth grade, Brookside Elementary. Triangles are a strong geometric shape.
Why?
I don't know why, but I just know that they are. I don't know the math behind it, but I know that, you know.
You've heard that?
You look at engineering structures, you look at underneath the Golden Gate Bridge, and it's a bunch of little triangles all put
Yeah,
together.
there seems to be something about that magic triangle. What do you know?
The tension and the pressure equalizes through the triangle.
Okay. I'm noticing some of you have these little, you know, looks like little guy wires coming off them. And that also creates a really big triangle. Like a suspension. Yeah. Nice. Yeah, I mean, it almost seems weird that you've got all this structure here, and then what's really helping is this one little thing off to the side. Yeah. What else? What else worked?
In that vein of the string, creating a triangle and that heavy marshmallow on the top, if you got unlucky with finding the point of resistance in the direction it was leaning, and you're only using one string, you guys were genius to use two strings, I'm going to compliment that. Then you could have had everything going really well up to that point, but if you can't find that kind of balance, you're kind of toast. That's what we found.
Okay, so we're going to shift gears in the conversation just a little bit, because this was a two-goal project for us. One goal was to kind of introduce the whole theme of the grant, which is, you know, structure and engineering and using our integrated STEM topics. To look at that. But then there was another goal of this particular activity. The secondary goal of this activity was to really focus on cooperation and that process of teamwork. Because one of the things that we know about when we start to integrate subjects is that you often have to do it with other people. Okay? So what I want you to do for 30 seconds, let's just do a little bit of a personal reflection. I noticed as I walked around the room that some of you took on a quiet role on the side and maybe kind of watched. And some of you took a leadership role, and some of you took a very collaborative role, and you know, some of you were observers, and some of you were I don't want to say nobody was aggressive, but think about what role you brought to your group. So for 30 seconds, little personal reflection. What was your role? Yep, this is personal reflection time. Now what I want you to do is share out with your table groups. How did you view yourself? And then it'll be kind of interesting to see if everybody... Upon getting the activity and we start at the time, did anybody start in your group by asking everybody else in the group, have you ever done this before? Nice, okay. Did any groups start by giving your resume? As in, I'm a science teacher. Pay attention to me. Or, I'm really good with Legos. Did anybody have have any of those kinds of discussions? Yeah, so one of the things that's kind of interesting about this activity is that it is not unique to our team. We are not the first to bring it to you. As a matter of fact, all good professional development is probably stolen from somewhere else. So we took this idea from a gentleman who presented it at a TED Talk. And one of the things that he has done in his presentations is to really monitor who does well and who struggles. And so we will eventually, in about 10 minutes, watch that TED Talk and see who does well and who struggles. But when I say who does well and who struggles, I don't mean with the tower itself, but with the human dynamics of it. So one of the things that's really awesome about working with teachers, and this is why I love teachers and I love being a teacher, is that we're a collaborative bunch. And when somebody comes in and says, I'm going to give you a team project, we do it as a team. And, you know, occasionally there's mavericks and somebody will go rogue, but for the most part, we're pretty willing when somebody says, hey, here's your curriculum, let's work on this together. We do that. And so, you know, we don't get into those really intense head-butting, nasty competition. So, before we watch the TED Talk, I want to throw out to you 2 questions. In a wide array of people doing this activity, what kind of people do you think build the best towers? What kind of people do you think build the second best towers? And what kind of people do you think struggle the most and often don't build well? When my son was in kindergarten, his teacher happens to be here. The first year that he was in kindergarten, and we're sitting at the dinner table and I'm talking, and he goes, Mom, quiet, all right, so I'm not going to tell you the answers to those questions because they're in the video that we are about to watch. However, before we watch the video, I'm going to throw the ball here to Eric, who's going to talk just a little bit about some of the engineering aspects.
This will be very, very short. You're going to do this in spades at the Exploratorium. But you might have noticed that some towers really depended on the marshmallow sitting on the spaghetti, and the spaghetti being rigid. Right? Like you can't easily, it won't, you can't compress it easily. And then there's also some like this that have this spectacular guide wire here. But it's not leaning on the string, right? It's depending on the fact that you can't pull a string easily. And so there are these 2 forces that are called compression, which is how much you can squash something, and tension, which is how much you can pull something. And you can see that the people are using the string where it's tension, and then there are other things that, and the spaghetti gives you the compression. So these are 2 forces that act on all structures and bridges, and you're going to get all this and more of the Exploratorium. So this is just a brief foreshadowing. So how do you want me to run the top?
Yeah, so what we're going to do now is TED Talk is about 7 minutes. It's kind of fun, and then afterwards we'll debrief. So here we go.
All right. Come on, technology. Do it.
We're not going to film the screen. We're not.
So, I have a question for you. When we presented the activity to begin with, let's kind of roll back in time. It was 50 minutes ago for that launch. How did the activity start? It was at that moment when Eric said, and now we'll begin this activity. And what happened next? How was it presented to you?
Oh, here's the material.
Here's the material.
You got 18 minutes.
You got 18 minutes. Go.
Are there any questions?
Yeah, there were clarifying questions. Okay. But let's talk about what wasn't done.
We didn't really have directions.
There was no direction about what? I mean, because...
About how to do it.
Yeah, so there was no direction about how to use your time. There was no direction about engineering. There was no discussion about what might make you successful.
No examples given.
There were no examples given. Okay, so now let's think about whether that was a good thing or a bad thing. Why is that maybe a bad thing? Let's start with that.
Once you see an example, oftentimes you like to model it versus use your own creativity on how to do it.
So I would say that makes it a good thing.
Yeah.
So what makes it the way that I didn't give any suggestions at all, why would that be a bad thing?
You might waste a lot of time with all of a sudden people having a whole bunch of questions about it.
Okay, so there might have been a whole lot of clarifying questions. What else?
Probably anxiety to some degree for some people. Not like in a bad way, but like panic, anxiety,
Yeah.
fear of like not doing it.
And I think metaphorically, absolutely, I don't think anybody would be scared about a
No.
particular spaghetti tower, but metaphorically, let's think about what that would be like in a math or a science lesson where you're just like, okay, go, and I don't even know where to start. Okay, what else?
I have a bunch of different people with different ideas, not having seen an example, everyone thinks their idea is the best, and then
Okay, so it might lead to some head butting.
If this was done as a one-off activity versus something you're allowing them to iterate, you're going to have some groups that are going to waste most of their time and then end up with their only experience was frustration and no learning really went on.
Failure.
Okay, so by not giving any kind of front-loading lessons, we might end up with something that was completely ineffective. Maybe. But what's the good part about just saying, here's your material, here's your time constraint, clarifying questions, go?
You can be as creative as you want. You're unrestrained.
Okay?
I think when you allow for failure, there's more learning that might happen.
Yeah, some of you have a tower that never stood. But did you learn something from it?
I think also in those cases where the structure doesn't sustain, more collaboration goes back into it, more discussion.
Okay. Yeah, and so let's talk about that process. Yeah, I think he was Canadian. So we had a prototype that we kept modifying and coming back and modifying and coming back. And it was a cyclical thing. So, you know, we talk about a one-off. If this only happened one time and then I never did anything with it, it's probably not going to be a really effective lesson. But if we were now to come back to it and say, okay, now I'm going to give you a second chance. And just in the video, he had that same group that came back 4 months later and suddenly everybody had a tower that worked. Okay? But I don't think we should fear that moment of failure through the first cycle of that process. Yeah, most of us in the room did not successfully build a very tall tower. Okay? But from that, we now can talk about, hey, what happens when we've got the heaviest thing at the top of our tower? How might we deal with that better? Maybe we shouldn't wait till the last second to put the marshmallow on. Maybe we should build with the marshmallow on the top the whole time and then build and reconstruct. Maybe we should use our strings in a better way. I mean, probably some of us didn't even know how to use the string. And others of us used the string in really effective ways. Maybe some students wouldn't know to use triangles. Okay, well then on the second try they will. Maybe some, I think about your Eiffel Tower, how it just kind of spun. Well, you probably now have a better way to deal with that. Maybe a cross piece of spaghetti to help avoid the torque. Okay? So I think through that process, and again, I don't think about this necessarily as a particular lesson, although it would be a great first day of school lesson, or, any time in your school year, this is a cool lesson. But think about it as a metaphor. It's okay that we don't give a lot of front-loaded instruction, that we let people try, that we let people fail, and then we learn from that. And so think about that as a pedagogical cycle that you can embrace and really use to your benefit. Okay? I think had I come in and said, hey everybody, I'm going to give you one tip, and that tip is put the marshmallow at the top of your tower from the very beginning and build up, it would have changed the entire thing. It wouldn't have been nearly as impactful as, oh my God, everybody's like, there's 1 minute left, get your marshmallow on there, and then they all started falling. That lesson was so important. Okay, and so we didn't avoid it, we embraced it. We kind of knew what was going to happen. I kind of chuckled every time I saw somebody's tower. I loved when you blew on your tower to keep it up. That was awesome. I hope you got that on video. All right. Are there any other comments that you'd like to share out? Yeah.
So obviously the planning time in the beginning, since we were really constrained, right? It tends to be a little Lord of the Flies when you have a really limited time period like that. I think allowing students more time to talk and having some structure where the entire group gets to talk would be good. And then I love the idea of, in the middle of the project, having a period of time where no one can touch anything. You just have to stop and talk about how it's going. Because I think that's a good opportunity for people to retool stuff too. And I'm mostly concerned about dominant voices versus voices that might have really good ideas, but within time constraints don't offer anything.
I like both of those suggestions. Any others? Yeah.
Just that, I think within a regular math or science curriculum, with time being so limited, how most people are used to doing an activity like this is a one-off. And really the learning comes in doing it more than once and circling back around and applying the lessons learned versus that, question we all ask at the end of a project. If you were to do this again, how would you do it differently? And I think students over the years learn to dismiss that as, yeah, I have to answer that to get full credit on this assignment, but I'm not actually, imagining doing this again. But if they know that they get to do it again, that reflection actually becomes a lot deeper. And I think that's where most of the real learning happens.
And just to continue with that metaphor, we do the in-class activity. Maybe the homework, the meaningful homework that goes home is, I want you to go home, think about it, make it design, try it, time yourself, and tomorrow in class is going to give you 10 minutes to construct your own tower. And then that could, the next day you can repeat the activity in a meaningful way, but with the thoughtful time being on their own time. So it's a nice way to do it. Any others? Okay, so I want to make sure that we don't have any remnant pasta. So please designate one person at your table group to be the remover of the tower and marshmallow. Let's make sure we get it all thrown away. It is break time. Please come back at 10.